Enough of that. Enough. Done. Cut. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to your SC2newscast.com. This is weekly edit number 16, I believe. Oh, man. So today has not really gone as planned, unfortunately, but I am going to be throwing this down. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of stuff, so hopefully it goes much better. In fact, let's just throw on with the, where'd it go? Main cam, there I am. Excuse me, Dr. Pepper makes you burp. But buy Dr. Pepper. They're like Pepsi, they support esports, so it is what it is. Alright, so my original plans for today, I even posted on the Facebook, I had confirmed a guest, and I'm not sure what's going on. Something's happened, and he's not here, unfortunately. And we are on kind of a time constraint, so I can't just wait forever. So I'm going to go ahead and record this, and if he happens to be able to make it during the show, I'll just bring him on live. If not, I'm going to go over what he was here to talk about. In case you missed it, it was Travis, IronManSC from the Planetary Workshop. Now, I had him on back in weekly edit number 8 or something. One of the early video weekly edits I had him on. And he was a really cool guy. It was just kind of at the start of their group when they really started kind of hitting the scene. And really cool guy. So I was talking to him just a few days back, and because they are really have some cool things going on. So if he doesn't come up, I'll be bringing him up here shortly. Or I'll be, excuse me, if he doesn't pop on, I'll be talking about that shortly. Man, I'm all flustered. So anyway, I'm not quite prepared, but I did have a few other things to talk about today. Mainly, let's just go over kind of what's been going on the last few days in the news. So NASL 2 has started this past week. And it started really well. Started off with a bang. It's really exciting, and they're getting a lot of props for the work that they've been putting in and the changes to their overlays and to their video editing and everything. And it's done really well. They're getting a lot of positive feedback. So good for them. Good for them. I didn't get to see the games. Well, that's not. I did see a few of them, but I didn't see a ton of them, so I can't really comment on those too much, except for there were a couple really strange results out of there. Anyway, Code S and Code A started this week, just the last couple nights, and a lot of foreigners playing in Code A this time, a nice group of them, and the good part is that they're all not playing on one day like they were last time. Get everything out of the way. Gosh dang. Nothing's going right for me today. Alright, so let me just give you a bit of what's been going on. So in Code A, we had SC take out Revival 2-1. We had, now here's one of our foreigner heroes, Dignitas Select. Now he took out Slayer's Alicia to advance, and he took him out actually rather easily overall. It was kind of not necessarily surprising, but I didn't expect it to be that one-sided. So those are cool games. You should actually check them out if you can. Now, here was the big one. In case you missed it. MC versus Monster. Now, MC, two-time GSL champion, was arguably the best player in the world for a couple months, when he won those GSLs. MC just got taken out by Monster. MC is booted out of Code A. He is no longer a GSL player at the moment. Yeah, people like to be, that Code D. If you're not in Code A or Code S, you're not in the GSL. That's just how it is. So, I don't know. MC's out. We'll see how we can do. And I've been saying this. If you caught me, I think last week I was actually specifically mention this, that MC is just really fallen off the wagon. And not that I don't think he can win again, I think, though, that he needs to get back, just batten down and practice again. And he needs to tighten his builds again. Alright. Kyrix versus Gumiho, and he lost 2-0 to Gumiho. Yu-Gi-Oh! Took out Shiny Star. Smart, who is now, what do they call him, JYP. JYP took out Juktu, 2-0. Sniper fell to Curious 2-0. And now here was the other one I want to talk about. Sho versus Maka. Now, Dignitas Sho. And again, anyone who watches the show knows that I am a Sho fanboy. I like watching Sho play. I like his style a lot. It's interesting. And I like his low APM way of playing. Not that I don't think that he needs to speed up, because I think he does. And I think he will. But I like the deliberacy of it. Now, I hate watching these pro players that spam click constantly. Because all I can think about is, if you could learn to focus all of that, then you would be better than you are, right? Instead of going, click, and clicking guy around, what about if you just go click, and shift click and move him, and then go back and you macro or whatever, and then come back, I don't know. It just seems like a gigantic waste of energy. And I think Sho's one of these guys that if his APM starts rising, it's not going to be due to spamming. It's going to be due to extra useful APM. Extra actual functional APM. Anyway, on that note, Maka versus Sho. Now, Maka was so strong when the game first came out. He was one of the strongest Terrans, arguably one of the strongest players in the world for a little while there. And he went into game 1, and he just dominated Sho. It wasn't even close. He ripped through a Sho just apart. Game 2, though. Game 2, Maka went into it, and he started, Sho kind of held off his early rush a little bit. I don't even know if Maka was trying at that point, because just a couple minutes later, he obviously wasn't. Maka just decided to expand and build a bunch of command centers in the middle of the map. Early. We're not talking like late game Terran versus Terran like you would see a lot of these guys do, where they build the planetaries to try and, zone out areas. This was just him at, I don't know, maybe the 15-minute mark, not even that, maybe? I can't recall exactly. He just built, 3 orbitals in the middle, right outside of his base. He was literally, it wasn't even funny. And then, he was doing these stupid attacks and engage. It was Maka just trying to embarrass Sho. It was Maka trying to show off. And after a little while, Sho held off his attacks and built up, and Sho came back and won that game. It was a long game. I mean, you could see after a little while where Maka actually started trying and was like, oh shit, this guy might actually beat me if I've messed around too much. And so Sho beat him, but I don't believe he should have. I mean, Maka, I think if he would have been trying 100%, would have ripped through Sho. Now, game 3, Maka was trying a lot harder. But this time, which was a lot more even of a matchup overall, Sho held him off. And it was pretty epic back and forth. There was, entire base destructions. And, it was a cool game. A lot of mistakes on both sides. Very sloppy, mind you. But just like almost any other game, when they play very sloppy, it actually leads to being very exciting in a lot of ways. So, Sho took the series. Sho won game 3. And you could see Maka was so upset. He was so mad. It's really funny. And Sho was kind of bragging. He was kind of celebrating some. And I don't know if Sho realized how badly Maka fucked up in that game too, and how badly he should not have won that game. I'm sure he does by now, but when it was going on, I'm not sure if he realized it. And I'm sure Sho is looking at those replays going, wow, I lost that series. I mean, he won it, but he should not have won. And hopefully he realizes that. The cool part about it is that means that Sho will have a Code A spot for next season, no matter what happens. Excuse me, oh my gosh. No matter what happens in the next round of 16, he has a spot Code A next season. Good job. Good job, Sho. And I think that if he's going to stay in Korea for a while, I think he'll do well. Because he's going to be, I'm sure he's already, just from his short time there, I'm sure he's retooling his mechanics. And I'm sure because his one of his strengths is his just overall decision making, his understanding of unit composition, his understanding of engagements are so strong. And that's a lot of times the hardest stuff to teach. So now he just needs to build the mechanics on top of it, and he could be really, really good. Really good. I mean, how many players with strong mechanics but just crappy everything else are in Masters and Grandmasters? There's actually a lot of them. Where Sho's the opposite, he's there just based strictly on the decision making, on the build orders, on the structure, and very little on his mechanics. So I see him doing well. Anyway, let's get off that. Let's see, GSL Code A. Here's the other matches. Fruit Dealer versus Sase, and I actually picked Sase to take this because Fruit Dealer can't seem to win anything lately, but he did. Fruit Dealer took that series 2-1. Violet versus Hero. Liquid Hero 2-0'd him, and that was to be expected. Byun versus Twilight. Now, the series ended Twilight 2-1 over Byun. I was actually surprised. I thought Byun would just roll him, actually. And then, here's the other weird one. Superstar over Tassadar 2-0. Superstar. Now, if you don't know who Superstar is, okay. Superstar's hilarious, right? This guy, he's like he's kind of a joke of the scene in a way. He's from Startale? Startale, I think. Startale. And they call him the Vampire because he shows up to GSTLs and he wears like a cape and looks like a vampire, and he apparently has like a show in Korea too where he like plays jokes and talks and does funny stuff. I don't know. I just heard that. But he used to be called Random King. So if you know who Random King is, that's Superstar. Thing about Random King is he used to play random, and he was one of the best random players in the world, mind you. Ned still had a lot of issues, but he was one of the best random players in the world. Well, now he's switched almost primarily full-time Justicer, and he's been doing pretty well. He won a Code A qualifier. I remember watching that, and I forget who he took out. But it was impressive. He actually played better than I expected him to. So that's kind of cool, Superstar. So that's your Code A from the first couple days. Code S we had the last night also. The first group in Code S was, Group A. MVP over Ensnare, Clyde over Noblesse, MVP over Clyde, and Ensnare over Noblesse, and Clyde over Ensnare. MVP went 2-0, Clyde went 2-1, so they both advanced. Ensnare went 1-2, and Noblesse went 0-2. So Noblesse falls to the up and down. Let's see. Ryung over Marine King, Bomber over Puzzle, Ryung over Bomber, Marine King over Puzzle, Bomber over Marine King. So Ryung 2-0, Bomber 2-1, they both advance. Marine King and then Puzzle falls to the up and down. Marine King stays in Code S, and I expected that to happen. Marine King is too good of a player, and too... I don't think he would let himself fall to Code again, you know? I mean, he got this far, you know? He fell to Code and he fought his way back up. And he almost won Code championship. Almost. He didn't, unfortunately, but he almost did. And so he's got a retaining for next season. Now, the cool part is that Marine King needs to work on his builds a lot. That's his great weakness, is he's got the mechanics and he's got great decision making, but he doesn't have the builds and the overarching strategies of someone like an IM MVP. And if he ever wants to win a championship, he's gonna have to go through someone like an MVP. And in order to do that, he's gonna need to do more than make Marines. And so I'm hoping that he takes this time between He takes this time between now and the start of next Code season in, November, to just retool his builds. Let's hope he does that. That should be cool. Alright, so that's been all that's going on in there. So, that's been all. That's kind of my ideas on that. Sorry I haven't had a bunch of overlays and stuff. You know, I can flip there's still, NASL Season 2, you know, I can do that, but I just don't have anything ready. So, because I was hoping to get set up with my buddy there, but but that's okay. That's okay, it happens. No problem. But let's go over what we were going to talk about with him anyway. Because those guys are still awesome. So anyway, let's go over this a little bit. In case you don't know, TPW is the Planetary Workshop, and these guys are an awesome map-making team, and I dig their maps a ton. You know, kind of in the same vein of, in case you don't know, of the old IC Cup team, which are now the ESV TV team, or whatever they're calling themselves. Well, they have had a bunch of kind of big announcements recently. One is NASL. NASL is holding a series of open tournaments. In fact, let me bring up the thread here for you guys. Do I have a screen cap? Bam. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah. So NASL Open, I don't know how well you can see that, but NASL Open Tournament featuring new map pools. And the thing about the map pools is that they are TPW maps. It's like an entire map pool created by the Planetary Workshop, which is really cool because, one, NASL is a pretty decent-sized organization. And especially after this season, I think that they're going to be getting bigger. I think they're doing really well. So the open tournaments are going to be featuring a bunch of maps that no one plays on at this point in time, right? That's cool, because that's going to force pro players or people who want to become pro players to try out new maps, right? And to support the community. So that's really cool of them. Let me show you the map pool. In fact, I need to pull up these images. I saved them, and now I got to pull them up. Okay, here's a map called Artifice. These are all the map pool for NASL Open Season. All right, check that out. Artifice. That's a cool 4-player map. The only kind of interesting though, there's no expansion in the middle. Big open kind of middle. Everything expands around the side. All right, let's bring up another map for you. Concrete Dreams. Now this picture might be a little bit hard to tell, but this is actually a really cool map. I really like the entire layout of it. It's a little tight, a lot of stuff kind of going on, but a lot of attack paths and some cool backgrounds. Alright, let's bring up Damage Inc. is the name of this one. Now it's a little interesting. I'm not sure, I haven't played on it yet. Looks kind of cool though. I kind of like the walls. I like how they're experimenting with just textures. Alright. Let's add another one. Emerald Jungle. That's kind of cool. Kind of cool jungle map. I like that dark that dark green textures instead of like the light green of like a Tal'Darim altar. I think that's neat. Lunar Station. Now this I always like because one, I like, space and anything that references the moon. Kind of a small map. I'm not sure what to think about this one yet. Again, I haven't played on this one. I've only played on a few of these. Odyssey. Now this one we looked at before. This is one of their older maps, which reminds me a lot of just like a smaller version of Daybreak, right? And that was the first thing I thought of actually when I saw Daybreak. But I thought that looks like a larger version of that Odyssey map from TPW. Ohana, this is another one of the older ones. Another beach map. I'm not sure how much I like this beach texture, like Belshire Beach style. I'm not 100% sold on it. Alright, let's find the other one. Now there's two more, and that's the entire map pool for these NASL Open Season 1. Or whatever. This is a 2-player map. This one is called One Must Fall. And, in fact, I think I played on this one. Why does it look different, though? Did they edit it some? I think they might have, because I think I remembered playing on this, and it doesn't quite look the same. Either that or I'm thinking of a different one. Oh well. And this is Overgrown. This is the last one that we're going to look at. Kind of got a Shakuris Plateau thing kind of going on. In fact, looking at it, actually, it's very similar to Shakuris Plateau. I mean, not exactly the same, but there is quite a resemblance. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. NASL Season 2. NASL, the NASL Open, what are they calling it? The NASL Open Tournament 1. And the thing is that they're doing these, like, open tournaments that qualify you for the next level to become part of the NASL for Season 3. And so this is really cool. Really, I mean, it's cool for NASL, and it's really cool for TPW for these guys because they're awesome guys, awesome map makers. I dig it. Okay, other bit of news from them. So another cool thing, not just NASL, IPL. IPL 3 is coming up here pretty soon, and IPL 4 is wanting them to do edited versions of some of the popular maps, like Shakuris Plateau, Metalopolis, Tal'Darim Altar, Xel'Naga Caverns, and Shattered Temple. So they'll make their own IPL 4 versions, and they're being done with the help of the Planetary Workshop. So that's totally cool. And people are like, what do you mean? Well, it's kind of like, it's the same thing as like MLG or GSL does, right? They don't use the latter version of a map. They use their own version, which is almost exactly the same, maybe just some slight tweaks that they like, or little tiny things that may affect balance, that they are interested to see. So that's really cool for them, because IPL 4 should be having really awesome players. Like, oh, you know what? Let's see, Travis just hopped online. Let's see if he's ready to just come on right now. And let him kind of give his 2 cents. Let's see. Alright, so he's going to be coming on, but just here in a few minutes. So that's cool. We'll have him on. We'll let him talk about that. Let me talk about the other thing that's been going on over the last few days. Sorry. That's really boring TV. Really boring thing to watch. Anyway. Alright, so... Okay, yeah, he says okay. Okay. So he'll be on shortly. So the other big thing that's been coming out the last few days, which I really wasn't going to talk about yet just because all the facts aren't even beginning to come out quite yet. The Millennium Complexity Stefano situation. Now, if you haven't heard this, a few days ago, it basically goes like this. Stefano, really strong player out of Europe, who was with Millennium, goes to Complexity, or they sign a contract. Okay. Cool. Complexity. Contract. Stefano is now on Complexity. They release a statement saying, hey, he signed the contract. Hey, we just signed Stefano. Awesome. Great person to have on our team. Stefano says, hey, cool, I'm looking forward to it. Awesome. Next, what happens is a few hours later, Millennium comes out and says, nope, that didn't happen. He's still on our team. And Complexity, and then accused Complexity of underhanded dealings and whatever else. Complexity responds, this is just, it gets a little silly, but Complexity responds and says, oh, that's cool. You're wrong, though. In fact, look, we talked to you and we talked to him. We have all these records. They came out with facts and said, look, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. You know, this happened, this happened, this happened, this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very, very straightforward. Really cool. And then they said, and I don't understand why you have any right to accuse us of, you know, underhanded or shady dealings. You guys were in the conversation the entire time, you know. And then he signed with us. And now then there's this, like, argument that apparently people are saying French contract law, and it doesn't make any sense, and he can back out of his contract at, like, any point anyway. And it's a bunch of weird crap. But anyway. To me, I've read all these threads, and I've read through a lot of this stuff. And the thing about it is that this is what it sounds like. Stefano, being like an 18-year-old kid, right, comes out and says, hey, Complexity goes to him and says, hey, we want you on our team. He says, cool, let's talk. So they talk with him and their Millennium Management. Oh, hold on. Is he ready? Let's give him a call. Let's bring up Travis. We're going to call him right now. Hey, man.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, man. There you are. Awesome. Cool. Glad to have you. We're recording right now. So you are on and ready to go. I was just blabbering on about I don't know if you've been reading on Team Liquid the last few days, but the whole contract situation with Stefano, and what a joke that's become.
I've been kind of busy. My hand's been down.
Yeah.
So I haven't really stayed up to date with that kind of stuff.
Well, good, because it's actually it sounds like a bunch of bull crap anyway. So you're not missing too much. So anyway, hey, so let's go ahead and just, for anyone who doesn't know you and what you guys do, why don't you just do a brief blurb about who you are and your team and what you guys do.
Well, I'm IronManSC, but people just call me Iron Man in BattleNet. I'm the only North American member on TPW, which is the planetary workshop, consisting of 9 map makers, including myself. But they're all from like Denmark, UK, Germany, and Sweden. But we are we like to think that we're the successor to iCup. Mm-hmm. And we just create quality melee maps for the community. And our goal is to present these things to tournaments. And, you know, we just want to create something fresh for the game.
Awesome. So I've already I was talking about... just a little bit ago, right before you hopped on, I was talking to him, because I wasn't sure if you were going to be on, so I was go ahead and kind of go over a few of the talking points. And you guys have hooked up with NASL for their open tournaments, correct?
Yes, we did.
So how did that come about?
Well, just in the most simple way that you can think of. We sent them a PM, and they responded, and we followed up. And, from there, we just, one of our guys was technically going back and forth with the emails and stuff, so he was kind of staying on top of it. And he would show us all the emails from NASL, and they're like, yeah, we'll be glad to try it out, for Season 3. Mm-hmm. So just send us all your good, new, fresh maps. And we composed a map pool of 9, and we just sent them in. We hand-selected each one, and we discussed each one, down to its core. We didn't just say, like, oh, well, that one's had the most success in Map of the Month. We're just going to take that one. No, like, some of them have been in Map of the Month, some haven't. So it's really more about the quality.
Okay, just out of curiosity, what kind of, on that note, what kind of things do you guys discuss about as in quality? Especially compared to, like, one of your guys' maps compared to another one of your guys' maps.
Well, basically what we do is we'll talk about a single map or two for an entire day if we have to. But what we do is we all gather on Skype when we can, and we show each other screenshots. And basically, we just recently added a new feature to our team called the Dropbox, and it's connected worldwide. And all you have to do, instead of sending a file for your map over Skype, you just put it in this Dropbox, mm-hmm. and then it's just instantly there for everyone else on the team to see.
Sure.
But you have to register for it. But, I mean, you can just double-click on the map file in there, and it's like, there you go. And everyone has been, kind of going into each other's maps and kind of changing the little things and recording them in change logs that we have for each map.
So is it a lot more collaborative now?
Oh, yeah. We've actually been collaborating a lot more. If you know one of those maps called Concrete Dreams.
Yeah, actually, I was just looking at that a little bit ago.
Yeah, that one
is... in fact, I talked about quickly how I haven't played on this map. I hadn't even seen it before I was looking it up over the last couple days. But it looks really cool, really interesting.
Well, that one is a collaboration of, I think, about 4 or 5 of us. I was not involved. But they all worked on the aesthetics. And, when you just look at it in-game, it is freaking beautiful. I mean, I love it. People say it looks a lot like Terminus. And, yeah, I can agree, but I think it's a slightly upgraded one of a Terminus, I would say.
Yeah, so I brought it up here on the screen for people to see, and I hadn't even thought of that yet looking at it, but I can see that from how the mains into the third with the single choke is similar to the layout of Terminus.
Yeah, and, in the third, on both Terminus and Concrete Dreams, there's a blocked second entrance into it, mm-hmm. but the main one goes right into the fourth, which is near the center, on both Terminus and Concrete Dreams. So, yeah, I mean, they are similar, but, I haven't really looked at Concrete Dreams too much. It's just more, when I see it, yeah, it looks a lot like Terminus, as well as, overgrowth looks like...
Shakuras, right?
Shakuras, yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking about that one a minute ago, too. Yeah, I'll bring that one up here for people to see, yeah. Yeah, but at the same note, they are different, I mean, they're not the same maps at all. They do have a similar layout, both of them, to the perspective map we were talking about, but it's interesting. I'm excited. The small little changes on any map can really affect gameplay. And
they really can.
It's like the big difference between like the Lost Temple and the Shattered Temple, Even though that change was actually, pretty significant, it's still a very similar layout,
Right. Yeah, it's just a matter of how you connect terrain. Mm-hmm. If you take a little piece of terrain out and put some space in between it, that is a very significant change. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did with Lost Temple, Not just taking out the high ground next to the natural, but now they connected that to the island.
Yeah, to the
island. So now it's like, okay, well... So, I mean, it dramatically changed it. I mean, now it's being used in GSL and everything. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, no, it's an excellent map. It's really cool. So, how does... what do you say to there's a lot of people who kind of on this NASL Open Tournament thing. Now, this tournament is to be held. I was just looking for the date. Do you know the date offhand?
I believe it's October 1st and 2nd.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, you're right. I just pulled it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some people talking about how they don't like it, not because of your maps, but because it's a completely new map pool. None of these maps has anyone ever really played on. So, what's your guys' response to that?
We haven't actually talked about that, but me personally, I follow up on that thread. I check it like 10 times a day, and seeing, I would say a good 80% of the responses are very excited for it, but the other 20% are like, well, having a whole new map pool for a bunch of new players and signups to have to learn is a bit too much. Maybe you should narrow it down to half the size, or I don't know. It's like, yeah, the more I think about it, the more I think, yeah, it is a bit extreme for the first step. I mean, I personally thought, like, well, why don't you... If I was running it, I would think, like, why don't you just add 1 or 2 in the Season 3? That would be a good start, not, 3 to 4 or even 9. You know what I mean? But it's a qualifying tournament, and Xeris, I think his name is, he said it's more of a testing ground, which, okay, yeah, it's a testing ground, but at the same time, you're still qualifying for Season 3.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a, a little, face-to-face conflict right there. But overall, it's like, well, you have a couple weeks to learn these maps. Those who sign up know that it's an entirely new map pool. They know that.
Yeah, and they should be taking the practice time seriously.
Yeah, and if they're putting their money on the line, they're going to practice. End of story. Like, those who are spectators think like, oh, well, they're going to join this tournament and be at a huge disadvantage. Well, that's their fault. They should have practiced, and they put their money on the line knowing that it's a whole new map pool. But,
it's
at
not
the
like
same
they
time,
hid this information or anything.
Yeah, and at the same time, we're telling everybody, hey, these have been thoroughly tested. We hand-selected them. They're the best ones that we can come up with. I mean, it's freaking NASL. I mean,
yeah,
we're not just going to take a bunch of maps and just throw it. No, we're going to take the best ones possible, and these are the best ones possible from us.
Excellent. Also, you mentioned, I mentioned briefly, but you were, we talked quickly about IPL4. What's going on there?
There hasn't been a whole lot of talk there. That one's been kind of brushed aside just a little bit.
Okay.
Because NASL is coming up sooner. But, yeah, they're, on the C account, and they want to get us a C account so that we can upload our maps on there. I don't know too many details on that. I just know that we are going to get one. But they want to take a couple of our maps, I don't know how many, but also maps like Metalopolis, Shatter Temple, Shakuris, and a couple more. And they want us to make TPW versions of them, much like MLG does with theirs, where they added the Manor Depot and then they put MLG on it.
Yeah.
And they want us to do something similar to that. So maybe they don't have MLG maps over on the C account, but I highly doubt that they don't. It's just... So
IPL's on the C account?
Well, they have... I think it's everywhere, but they want IPL for the C account, as far as I know. We haven't really went too deep in that.
Okay.
I mean, what they want right now is a few new maps from us, I think about 4, and then they want us to design a loading screen. I guess they want to put the Planetary Workshop logo on the loading screen.
Sure. Just like IC Cup or GSL has.
Yeah.
Or whatever IC Cup is called now, I always forget.
ESV.
ESV TV or whatever, yeah. There's a lot of V's in there. So
yeah.
So that's really cool. Have you guys even begin or is there that you know of or any other like map modifications to those ladder maps? that they're looking for, like a slight ramp size change or anything like that?
You know, honestly, I have no idea. I think they just may be asking, like, hey, do it just like MLG. You know, or maybe they just want us to update the aesthetics. I mean, I really don't know. They have not been very clear on that. They just said, hey, you know, we want some TPW versions of these maps. We want you to modify these maps and, you know, put IPL4 on it or TPW on it or whatever. And it's just like, well, okay. I'm not really clear on that. So
Whatever. If that's what they want, it's free advertising for you, right?
I guess.
So that's great. And what was there was one other thing you mentioned. The map of the month. How's that going?
It's going pretty good. Overall, you know, we're still taking a good chunk of the finals every month for about 3 months now, maybe 4. You know, this month it's 3 TPW maps and 2 ESV maps. And obviously, have you been paying attention to it lately?
I just kind of look at the thread, but I usually don't read through the whole thing. I just kind of see what they have up there.
Yeah, if you read carefully throughout that thread, there has been just so much talk. I mean, I think the true identity of the map community is starting to get brought into the light because everyone thinks that the judges are showing favoritism and they're biased toward TPW or ESV. I mean, if you look in the custom map section, there's a thread called "How About Some Memes," and one of them said, "Try and win map of the month," and then under it said, "If you're not TPW or ESV, you will never win." So I mean, it's like people are just like, well, screw it. I mean, this is like a team map thing now.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, well, if you're not part of these teams, you're never going to win, but that's not true. And
well, I mean, part of the thing is that when you're part of a team, especially a strong team like you guys or ESV, is you guys are there to support each other. So it's not just like 1 or 2 guys that are getting into it. You guys have a lot more experience, right? So you know, like the tiny little tweaks or the tiny little things to look for. You know? Yeah,
I mean, we're good map makers. Just I'm putting that out there. We are good, and you know, I'm not trying to be arrogant. It's just we're good. I mean, each one of us were hand selected to be on this team. We all have our pros and cons. Like, you know, some of these guys are better than me at other things, but it's just like, well, we just want to take the best ones and then have some sort of a collaboration or unity within that team and try and make the best maps possible. Because it's like if you have, you know, 5 guys that are very good at, you know, driving a NASCAR race car, but they're all individuals, it's like, why would you not want them on the team itself so they can all work together and make a faster car that wins more and that has more potential? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
well,
the same.
It's just the same as in the pro player community, right? It's rare to find a teamless guy who can compete at the level, you know?
Yes. I mean, not that they can't compete.
Yeah.
It's just the potential is so much higher if they're on a team.
Sure.
That's just kind of how it is.
I mean, they have that group of guys who can go over their replays and tell them, you know, here's all the little things that you need to improve on or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a major sport like baseball, you know, Major League Baseball, it's like, well, in a situation like that, it's based on money. You can look at one pitcher out of the whole team and say, hey, that guy is outstanding and he surpasses everyone else on his team. But, you know, when you look at football, you want to take a good player from college football and put them on USC, for example, because they're a good team. They work together and they show the true self. You know, they show their true potential at winning when you put the good guys together. And we're not saying that everyone else is bad. Not at all. We're just trying to make a goal to really keep the game fresh as soon as possible. I mean, if you think about it, if we had this team half good players and half not so good players, it would take a lot longer. because we would be putting so much of our focus on improving the other guys rather than, hey, how can we all work together to make the best maps? So that's the whole point of the team. That's why we, were created, and, that's just what we do. And we don't want to put other people down, and we're not saying, hey, map of the month is ours now. Like, get out. You're not going to have a chance. Like, not at all. I mean, we still value the other people's maps. So, yeah.
On that note, is there anyone that you know of in particular, like a guy that's not part of your guys' team, that you guys have been really impressed with their work?
There's a few people. I can't remember the names, but one of them is FenX, I believe, and he wants to, so-called retire from map making, as he said. And because I guess he's just frustrated that he makes a lot of good maps, and he really does, but he just doesn't make it, you know what I mean?
He doesn't get the amount of community love.
Yeah, in that sense. And, today on Skype Mural, one of our team members, he's like, I feel like we're hurting the community or the map community. And, there's going to be pros and cons. There's going to be fans and there's going to be haters. That's just how it is. Yeah. Like, iCup has a lot of fans, but it also has a lot of people who hate their maps.
Sure.
I mean, who was it? Was it Huck who said about Testbug that this is a terrible map or something like that?
Yeah, it was. I don't remember if it was Huck. It was someone, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. That's how life is in general. So,
well, I mean, even on that note, though, you're never going to like every map. It's just not possible.
No, it really isn't.
Especially, not every map is going to be 100% balanced for one race or whatever it may be. Everything's going to be a slight advantage here or there. Or just a weird layout or a weird, like, to me, honestly, what I hate is not. I kind of like Testbug. It's kind of interesting, but Dual Sight, the GSL map.
Oh, that one is made by LS Prime, I think.
See, and the thing that I don't like is, and it kind of has that Testbug thing where it's like half of it is like green grass and the other half is like the burnt ground type format. And that just, I don't know, I just think it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing,
Well, okay, aesthetically, sure, it does, but it's just when you think of the theme and the lore and just the layout in general, it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think it's Testbug, where it's like...
When Testbug has all three. It has the space platform, plus the grass, plus...
See, Testbug, I like Dual Sight because that's more realistic. But when you look at Testbug, it's like, okay, here's a green layout, and here's like a volcanic one or whatever it is. And then here's a space one. Like, how does that happen?
So
it's like,
I agree with that.
Like, how?
With that point of view, but on the same note, I just think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, it's unique. It's creative. But it's just like, when you really think about it, it's like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Like, it really doesn't.
No, you're right. You're true to that. Let me see. I'm trying to bring up a picture of Testbug here here we go. For anyone that is interested. Yeah, it is kind of silly, but I like the idea behind it, as opposed to, like, I guess the difference to me between this map and, like, Dual Sight, and why I like Testbug, but I don't really like Dual Sight, is because Testbug, like, it is unrealistic, so it's just straight up aesthetically interesting, as opposed to Dual Sight. Seems believable, but it just looks ugly to me. I don't know. That's just my opinion, though.
Well, people want... Okay, here's the thing about map making. You want to create good scenery, right? But the problem is that, okay, what these guys have in mind is saying, hey, I want whichever side of the map you're going to start on, there's going to be a different type of a scenery setting. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, if you're looking at Testbug right now, you can spawn on the bottom left, which is space, and it's like, oh, cool, I'm on the space texture. Or if you go in the top left, it's like, oh, okay, I'm in the mountains and green texture. It kind of gives you a fresh awareness, you know what I mean? But the thing is Oh shoot! I kind of just lost my train of thought. It's really just, I don't know. I think they just try too hard. Like they're like, well, we want to add a variety of textures, but the problem is that you can't change the layout in a way where it encourages that. You know what I mean? Like for example, if I want to create two layouts, let's say the right side of my map, I want to make it more hilly and more mountain and more cliffs. I can't. I have to copy that to the left side. I can't just make the left side all rivers and valley-like. You know what I mean? That's going to cause problems. You have to make it the same, and when you make it the same, you have to generally use the same textures. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you. On that note, a little bit off topic, but since you brought it up, I saw that, what was that map challenge where they were trying to make like the asymmetrical maps? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Ooh, yeah. Actually, I'm on the forum right now.
I can't remember what they were calling that contest or that little challenge.
It's right here. Okay. Well, it's a mapping challenge, and it's basically just saying,
oh, there it is.
Make a map that is everything else but mirrored or symmetric in any way, but still as balanced as possible. I am staying away from that.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie.
What about any of your guys from your team? Do you know if anyone's played with that?
I think they played with it back in August, but we've been so tied down with NASL and other tournaments and stuff, it's like, well, brush that aside.
What do you think, though, of the idea of asymmetrical maps? Do you think that it's possible to still be balanced?
Man, I don't even know. I think you know what? Let me let me look at something real quick.
Okay.
Okay. I'm looking at Johannes, which is the fourth one down. If you look at the overview on that, it's it's different. I think it can work. It's just extremely limiting, though. You can't just make an asymmetrical map and just call it balanced. Like it really has to be worked on a lot, and I don't know. I mean, I think that's why people just stick with just a symmetrical map, because it's like, well, it works for everybody, you know.
On that, something that is kind of, I was thinking about when they first introduced this about the asymmetrical mapping challenge was, does it necessarily have to be balanced at all points of the game? Or let's say Zerg has the early advantage, like the first 10 minutes has an advantage. But if Terran can hold off their 10-minute push, then they have a strong advantage later. I mean, does that come into play when you guys are talking about maps?
No, that's just more metagame and race balance. I mean, when we make maps, how do I put it? We make them as balanced as possible so that wherever you are, you both have some sort of advantage and disadvantage, but you have a way to overcome the other person. So, for example, if you go to the center of the map, okay, let's say Terran is on 2 base, and he's turtled in at his natural, so you can't get in at all. And so, okay, he has the advantage there. But now he just gave Zerg the advantage. He just gave Zerg the whole map.
Sure.
But let's say Terran goes away from that 2 base and goes to the center where there's a Zelnaga watchtower, and it's on high ground with 2, 3, or 4 ramps leading up to it. Now he has the advantage. He has a tower. He can see down the ramps, and he's on high ground. Zerg, on the other hand, has a disadvantage because, one, he has to go up the ramp just to see what's up there. And he'll be seen long before that happens. But because he's Zerg, he has an actual advantage because he can attack from 2, 3, 4 different ways from, directions. So, when you think about stuff like that in terms of map balance and how we collaborate and how we, go about those designs, that's the kind of stuff we take into account. We don't just add a random high ground, somewhere on the map like the old Lost Temple by the natural, where it's like, okay, well, that's clearly a Terran advantage right there. Mm-hmm. If you add a ramp, then it's fine for everything else. Then you could actually leave it there. You know what I mean? So everything that we do, every piece of terrain has some sort of advantage and disadvantage for whoever uses it.
Have you seen the changes to Belshire Beach?
Yeah, actually I have.
What do you think about that?
Well, I can only think of one where they took away one of the ramps into the third, I think, or no, the natural.
Yeah, they did that, and they also took away the high ground in the main.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Those are the two main changes they made.
I think the high ground in the main was actually worthless to begin with because it didn't make any sense because it was between the main and natural, like on the opposite side of where the attacker would be. So it's like you can't utilize any sort of defense there, you know what I mean? And, I mean, unless you were sitting on 2 base the whole game and you were getting pushed back into your main base, that would be okay to use, but it's still worthless. It takes up space, and it's like, well, once you turtle in on your natural, it becomes useless.
Which now with the changes to the natural and third, you would think that turtling would now actually become more important. Before it wasn't, right? Because there was like 3 entrances into the natural or whatever, and now there's like only 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that definitely is going to encourage more 3 base and 4 base play instead of 2. Mm-hmm. The natural is always the trickiest part. If you can make a good natural, you can make a good map. That's the key right there. You have to make a natural that's not too big, but it's not too small, and it has to encourage forage fast expand. It has to be able to be walled off by 3 racks. I mean, there's just a host of things, but once you get a good natural, that is the starting point of creating a good map. It all begins at the natural. And I think the change to the Belshire Beach natural is actually very good. It kind of reminds me more of Shakura's Plateau.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's definitely a good, worthy change, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. Overall, from a fan point of view, because I'm not a pro player and I'm not really even that great of a normal player, but I love watching it a lot, and I actually like the high ground a lot. And now when I look at it, it looks a lot more boring.
Well,
now the thing I liked about the high ground, mind you, is what I liked is it was big enough, and a lot of Terrans would jump up there and start building their command center. And upon a simple scout, they can't see that,
Right. I think any smart player playing against a Terran is going to
be able to scout the front and tell the difference. But
right.
Or I did see, I forget who, if it was Jelizerg or someone actually threw some spine crawlers up there, and it actually worked out well for the early game. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know. That's just from a fan point of view. But yeah, no, I totally agree on the change to the natural though in the entrance. I think it's a lot better, a lot more interesting.
Well, with your comment on the high ground though, that's what I was saying earlier. It's an early game thing. I mean, once you wall off at your natural, it becomes rather useless. And once you get on 3 base, it's completely pointless. So, I mean, unless you're sitting on 2 base and you're actually getting pushed back with maybe like a Baneling bust, for example, that would be useful. And it may very well be useful for a particular static defense like a turret or a spore or whatever, or building a command center or whatnot. But that's it. I mean, once you get past the early game and you grab your natural and your third and so on, it's no use anymore.
Yeah. But
you might see the occasional.
I guess my point though is, was it really worth taking out in your opinion? Like,
I think it's unique. to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to see, little stuff like that come into play. It's like, oh, well, I wonder how they're going to utilize that. Are you going to see a medevac drop on it, and little Marines run into the main? You know what I mean? Like, that would be exciting to see.
It's kind of like, did you remember the old version of Tal'Darim? That had the two little spots in between the main and the natural, and Boxer in a tournament landed Marines up there? Each one would only hold like 3 Marines, but no one had ever done that before.
Oh my gosh!
He landed Marines up there and was able to shoot the natural of like the Zerg, or shoot the Queen and the gas or something. It was hilarious. They literally, it was like the last week that they used that version, and it was like the original version of the map or something like that.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember that. And actually, TPW Odyssey is one of our most popular maps right now. It's being used in like ESL, like monthly. It's always going on a stream and everything. And actually, during the Map of the Month tournament, when that was being played, that was the same one that Antigua Prime was in, by the way. Mm-hmm. There was a game on there where every base was taken. It was the map was split.
Which map are we talking about?
Odyssey.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually really funny because Mr. Bitter was the caster, and it was a Terran versus Zerg, I believe. And what happened was this guy had a few Marines in his medevac, and I forget where, but it's near the bottom right third by the ramp. He dropped some Marines behind a tower doodad, and they got stuck back there, and they were just shooting at everything. And it was like, and he commented on it, and he was like, "Oh, that's so bad. That breaks the game." But it's actually quite funny to watch. But I don't know. I think he fixed it, but I'm not really sure. But that was the only time we experienced something like that, though.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Just like there's little tiny things that you could never have even imagined someone would have figured out to do, And if you practice a map enough, you're going to find all those weird little. It's kind of like the bunker thing on Zelnaga Caverns, where they hide the Marine behind while they build the bunker. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It was like, dude, that map was out for like 8 months or something before someone finally discovered that, or at least before it became reported.
Well, new things can always be discovered. It depends how the metagame evolves. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can suddenly start having a new unit count or a unit composition where it would suddenly make a certain area feel exploited. I mean, it's just, you never really know. I mean, I've said it, months ago, and I'm saying it now, that no map is ever perfect. I mean, you can make it as perfect as you can, but one way or another, people are going to exploit it. Of course, one of the big things is people call the map broken when people can cheese on it.
Yeah, and that's annoying.
It really is. It's like, well, okay, he, cheesed me.
I just hate, I hate how people complain so much about cheese in general. Because, I mean, I understand if there's a certain cheesy opening that's so strong that you pretty much can't beat it, right? That, to me, is something broken. But cheese itself is just, it's part of the natural order of the game, right? I mean, it's part of the metagame, and you have to be able to hold it. It's kind of like Idra constantly complaining about when people cheese him. And it's like, dude, you gotta know how to beat that. That's part of the game. It's not just that it's stupid, it's a valid opening,
It is.
I don't know. I really just get frustrated with the RE. I mean, just like everyone else, I hate losing to cheese. It pisses you off like nothing else. But at the same time, it's the game, It just is what it is.
Well, the thing is, it is a valid opening. Just point blank, I don't care if people disagree with that. It is. It's part of the game. And, cheese in itself is mostly a harassing thing. Mm-hmm. You're harassing their early game economy because you want to cripple them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. If you don't harass Zerg in the early game with a timed push, they're going to go crazy with taking bases. That's just...
They're going to turn into Rhett or Sheth and just make drones all day long. And
yeah, I mean, if you want to Baneling bus a Terran wall, sure, if it works, you've succeeded. If not, you're kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
Cheese in itself is a very risky thing.
Yeah, it should be either just a harass or an all-in.
Right. And, the other thing is it's a, shoot, what's the word? It's just very, I guess I lost my train of thought again. I lost the word. I had it.
Well, I have no idea, so.
Yeah, if it jumps up to me again, I'll mention it. But
well,
yeah.
I think that's all that I had. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about quickly, or any other shout-outs?
I gave a shout-out on your newscast thread yesterday.
Oh, okay, great.
Just to kind of bump it a little bit. But besides that, I think we're constantly making maps. So when it comes to big tournaments like NASL, we're scared and we're anxious. We know that we put forth a very good map pool. Other people might think otherwise because it's like the first time they're seeing them, but we know our maps. We know them, and we're scared about it, but feeling good about it at the same time. Mm-hmm. We're guaranteed 3 or 4 spots in the NASL Season 3 map pool, so we're excited for that and to see how it plays out. But it's scary. I mean, we're kind of sitting here thinking, like, what maps are they going to take? Because these are all really good maps. It's like, well, which one are they going to take, Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I mean, it's a scary thing, but it's a huge step for us. And I think it's really going to help the community in general because NASL has really taken that step to include community maps. And that's a huge thing for esports.
Sure it is. And just for, especially just, it's... Like, I've talked about in many episodes, it's the community's really great about supporting community projects, And if they see... It's like when the NASL first started, a lot of... Yeah, they had their issues, but a lot of people still kind of gathered around them. And because it was literally a community project. And same thing with you guys. And it's good to see something like the NASL helping out, because all it does is help strengthen the community.
It does. It really does. I mean, I know a few weeklies ago that you did, weekly edits, you mentioned that maybe Blizzard is purposefully not trying hard enough mm-hmm. on their maps to encourage us to exceed and excel at that.
Well, yeah, I mean? actually, the point was that maybe they're not trying so hard, not to get you guys to excel, but because they know that you'll excel, was my point.
Right.
Was that they don't have to waste the money, was kind of what I was talking about that point. But yeah.
Right. I mean, you mentioned that they're doing it to force the creativity, and you said, why not? Mm-hmm. And so, I've listened to that a lot, and I actually do agree with that. And, I think there's really 2 perspectives on it. One is the one that you mentioned, and yeah, I think that could be true, but it's still an unanswered thing.
Well, yeah, it's all speculation.
Right. But the other thing is that this game is still very young. It's just over a year old, and
there's still 2 more versions of it coming out.
Exactly, and I think that Blizzard might actually start showing more community map support once Legacy of the Void comes out, because by then you'll have all your units. The balance will be underway, mm-hmm. But you'll have, a better understanding of not only game, but of how maps should be laid out from then on.
Yeah, because then it'll be set.
Right, because, if you take, like, Odyssey, for example, and, it works now, but in Heart of the Swarm or Legacy of the Void, depending on certain units that come into the multiplayer, that map may be considered broken for one of those expansions. You know what I mean? So I think, in my own mind, Blizzard is waiting for the other expansions to come out so that we can all have a valid, or not valid, but more of a foundational starting point for map support.
Sure. No, I think that's a great point, and that's something that I've talked about. Is just that that's it. Kind of bothers me. Yeah, there might be some balance issues now, but how many people complain? But it's like, do you really want them to make too many changes if they know what's coming out in the next expansion? You know, or just let them focus on the next expansion and getting the next balances down, and then focus on the next, because it's going to be a changing game for the next, at least 2.5 or 3 years, or however long until they release the other 2 expansions. And it just seems like people forget that Brood War was out for years before it was balanced.
Right, exactly.
It took a long time, and yeah, not a ton of changes because they made them really slowly. But now in today's world, they can't make them quite as slow. It's just not going to be accepted by everyone.
Right. I mean, think of it as like a PC. You're building a PC, and you have your motherboard. It's like, well, okay, you want to take some time to make it, order some parts here and there. You want to try and update it once a week. Now, you have 2 ways of doing this. Do you put 1 or 2 pieces on the motherboard and then attach it onto your tower right away and then wait it out? Or do you want to just keep the motherboard out and then put every part on it first, even though it may take a couple months, and then put it in all together, and then it's like, okay, here we go. Here's a good PC. Now I can start doing what it has the potential doing.
Yeah. No, it's a good analogy.
I just think that, I really thought about that because I know a while ago I got all upset. I kind of went on a little bit of a rampage on Team Liquid about Blizzard showing map support, but the more I thought about it, the more I just, think about that kind of perspective. It's like, well, if this was original StarCraft, then maybe they would, because that's just one game, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this game is going to be huge in the next 2 expansions, so I just think they're really... And there might be a unit or 2 that may not work for a current map that's out. They may need more room, so we have to make maps more open in the future. You know what I mean?
Like Brood War style, or...
Yeah, so I think a lot of people that are complaining just really need to calm down. They want community map support, and they think that Blizzard is not listening and all that kind of stuff, and add GSL maps to the ladder, but it's like, guys, calm down. Just if you're still playing the game today and tomorrow, then you're happy with the game. Just deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just Blizzard has so much crap on their plate, and every little thing they do, and every little change they make, or every little change that they haven't gotten around to making, they're going to get shit for, I think it's just kind of the way it is, because it is such a big game, and the people are so passionate about it that if they do or don't do any little thing, it's going to piss people off. No matter how perfect it might be. They may release a patch that perfectly balances everything. There's still going to be someone that complains.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's just how it is. That's how, our generation is being raised. We used to all play in Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, where everybody is a winner.
And, well, it's not even that as much as those were small games, and they were not changed in the process. They didn't even have the ability. It's not like they could patch your console,
Right. But, I remember when I was younger, I would play a game like, Super Mario 64. It was one of the first 3D games on N64. And I remember, okay, well, I need to go eat dinner. And I didn't pause it. I just, left him standing there, and I came back, half hour later, and nothing happened. It was just fine. If you do that in StarCraft, you will die. You have to stay on top of it. You have to play. You know what I mean? And people just...
And, that analogy holds true, metaphorically, for the idea of, the metagame, Or
exactly.
Or just, if you don't ladder for 2 months, and then you come back, the ladder could be completely different.
Yeah, exactly. That's just how it is. That's how it is in the competitive world of gaming.
Yep.
So, but when it comes to map making and trying to intertwine all of that, it's a very difficult process. People will go into a map editor, create a melee map, and say, hey, this is easy. And we'll come forth and say, yeah, it's easy to make a map, but try
balancing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really a difficult process. You know, I'm working on a new one right now, and I've been working on the layout for a week now. So it's just like, it takes a while. It really does.
Yep. All right, man. I think we're gonna call it good. I've been on for quite a while now. So, any last thing you wanted to say?
Well, I just, I could have been on earlier, but, I had something come up that was pretty important, so I apologize for that.
Hey, no problem, man.
But yeah, I'm glad to be on here again, and, trying to keep on top of our threads, and our maps, keep checking them out if you can.
Yep.
We're constantly producing. We never stop. There's always one or two of us that are constantly making maps, so... try and stay on top of the NASL for Season 3.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm a big NASL supporter. I will be.
Okay, yeah. And,
and especially with you guys having your maps in there. I'm actually quite excited to see some play on you guys' map, so...
Right. We're excited, too. But for anyone that's listening, if you are a newer map maker, or if you are a map maker and you need help, just send us a private message on Team Liquid. If you search TPW in the Team Liquid search box, you'll find the Planetary Workshop main thread, and you'll find all the members there. So you can send a message to all of them. Or you can send us an email, which you will find on www.theplanetaryworkshop.com. And other than that, we're here to analyze your maps and kind of give you some pointers. But other than that, we hope that you guys all enjoy the maps and that you continue to support us and just support the fact that, we're trying to keep the game fresh. So that's all I'd like to say.
Cool, man. All right, dude. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut this off and go ahead and probably end the episode also. All right, man. Well, thanks for joining me. And hopefully maybe after, like the end of, the first open or second open, maybe come back on and we'll see how reactions to your guys' maps have done.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. All right, man. Then you have a good day.
You too, man.
All right. Bye. All right, everybody. That was Iron Man. Good old Iron Man. So, yeah, he was a little late there, but that's all right. I got no problem. This is just going to be a super long episode. Why not? I've never done a super long one before. Usually I'm about 30 minutes. So, whatever. If you get a little bored, I'm sorry. Oh, well. It happens. So that was Iron Man. I think that's going to be all we're going to talk about. I'm not even going to finish my point about the whole Stefano contract, because it just sounds like a bunch of bullcrap. Sounds like he signed a contract, is backing out, and that they for some other reason that contract to them doesn't mean anything. So that's what it sounds like to me. But whatever. I think that's going to be it. Thank you for joining me. Thanks for sitting through this long episode. Thank you, the Planetary... Oh, excuse me. Thank you to the Planetary Workshop and to Travis for coming on and telling us what he thinks. So I think I'm going to head out of here now. Have a good night, everyone.